Hey guys, Andrew Esquivel here, back with another review, and today I'm going to be reviewing yet another air compressor that is for your car, courtesy of a company called DBPOWER. Now, I did just do a review on an air compressor from this company a few days ago, but this one is significantly different. The other one that I had reviewed had an analog scale that would tell you how much pressure is in whatever it is you're trying to pump pressure into. This one is digital, and what's nice about this one is it allows you to preset the desired pressure and then click a button, start it up, and it will go and fill up to that pressure and stop once that desired pressure has been achieved. It is important to go over the specifications in the manual real quick for several reasons. One, because you can choose which unit of pressure you want to go with, whether it's bar, PSI, or KPA. We're going to be going with PSI for the car. Now, some other important specifications are things like the operational temperature. This device is safe to use in temperatures between 20 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius, which is significantly less flexibility than the previous air compressor that I had used before. Also, we need to talk about the different types of things you can compress air into and the limitations of which you can do that for. So for your car, you can expect to be able to get a maximum pressure of about 35 psi. For a mountain bike, you can go up to 50 psi. For a road bike, the different basketball, different yada yada. So what I'm getting at is because a car is a much heavier thing than a mountain bike, it's going to take more power to compress air into it than it would a mountain bike because of the weight pushing down on the tire that you're trying to inflate. So that's why there are different specifications. So if you're using this for your vehicle, don't expect to be able to pump anything past 35 psi. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the device physically for just a moment. On the side here, you've got the airline hose that comes out and tucks away on the inside. This part right here would screw onto the valve for your tires, but in case that's not what you want to inflate, it comes with the adapters on the back here, which are actually very snugly secured in there, so much so that I need to have something to pry it out with. But something as simple as a pen is all you need. And up here we have a 3-meter long 12-volt DC cable that plugs up to your vehicle. Now, getting this out with one hand is a little cumbersome, but as you can see, it tucks away nicely. And the maximum draw for this device should be around 10 amps. Alright, so to show how long this cord is that connects into the 12-volt outlet in the car, I've got it plugged into the back outlet of my vehicle, and as you can see, it's got plenty of length to reach the driver's side or passenger side wheels in the rear, and likewise in the front there's 12-volt outlets, and it'll easily reach either side without any problem. Now, as you can see here, once this thing starts to get power going to it, you'll see a digital display. Just notice the word target. We have it set to PSI. If you want to change that, you press down on this, and you can switch between the 3 different units. We're going to stay with PSI. Now, I know for a fact my car is supposed to have 29 PSI on all 4 wheels. If you're unsure what pressure your wheels are supposed to be, it's often on the inside of the door or where the door connects to on the driver's side of the vehicle. And for me, it says front and rear, 29 PSI. So that's what we're going for. So what I've done is I have purposely let out some air pressure at the valve here for my wheel on the passenger side rear. And I don't know what PSI it's currently at, but once we plug this thing up, it should let us know. Unlike the previous air compressor from DBPOWER that I tested, that has a simple push in and clamp on method, this one genuinely screws into the valve. And according to the device, we are sitting at 17.5 psi, far too low for what we want. So, in order to set the target, what we do is we turn this dial, and we want 29 psi. Once it's set, it's the target, all we need to do is hit the power button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it right here, because you may have noticed the target has increased for some reason. Now why that is, I'm not sure. Let's reduce the target back down to 29. Try again. Okay, so the device has automatically shut off now that it has reached 29 psi. Although I'm not quite sure why in the first place the target was going up. Perhaps maybe the rattling from the compressor on the inside was moving something or touching the internal connections on this dial, accidentally causing it to go up. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to test it on the other the other three wheels on this vehicle and see if that's still the case. Alright, so we are here at the rear driver's side wheel this time. Pressure was a little high in this, probably because I had it filled up during the winter, and for every 10 degrees Fahrenheit plus or minus you lose respectively 1 psi or gain 1 psi of pressure in the tires. So I lowered it down. It's currently sitting at 23 psi after I've lowered it. Target is 29. Let's see what happens. Now see right there, went back up, but maybe that was my finger touching it. Let's dial it back. 29. Make sure my finger doesn't touch anything. Now see, the target went up by another half of a psi again. I'm going to try putting my finger on it to try and reduce vibration to it. Put it back down to 29 psi. Okay, it's reading 28 psi is where it stopped. So it didn't particularly stop at the desired psi. It's a little lower this time. Don't know why that is. Although putting my finger on it right here just slightly does seem to prevent this number from going up by accidentally. Okay. We're right on the cusp of 29 psi if it's going back and forth like that. I mean, that's getting pretty close to what we need. 29 psi, that's right where it should be. So what I'm gathering from this is that the vibration from this device is causing the connections on this dial to touch somewhere, and it accidentally increases the target pressure. And for whatever reason, once it reaches the desired pressure, it stops and then loses a little pressure at some point and is below what your target is, making the system unreliable if you're not checking it and double checking it. Now, to be fair, in order to establish a pattern, we at least need 3 separate results to analyze. So we're going to do this with at least one more tire and see if this problem persists. Now, there are rubber feet on the bottom of this device, on the back of this device. That's supposed to dampen the vibrations a little bit, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So we are at the passenger side front wheel, and we'll be removing some air and pumping it back up to, once again, 29 psi. Alright, so we are sitting at 21 psi. The target, once again, 29 psi. Let's give it a last chance. Okay, let it settle. So, once again, it accidentally raised itself up, and we're sitting nicely at the current target, which is 29.5, but we want 29. So, we have a problem. We have 3 times that this has done this. That establishes a pattern. The vibration from this device is causing the target to accidentally go up, probably because the switch here isn't all that well connected to everything. So the reliability of this thing being, super accurate, not that great. Now, if you're off only by half a PSI, that's generally not something to worry about. But, as you saw in the first test, it kept going up and going up and up and up. That could be a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this to the correct pressure first, and then in the last test we're going to do this one more time on the driver's side front wheel, but we're going to have it sitting like this and see if having it vertical instead of horizontal laying flat makes any difference whatsoever. Okay, so for this final test I removed some air from the driver's side front wheel. And we are sitting at 20.5 psi, targets 29. Now, for this test, we will have the device sitting like so, instead of laying flat on its back like we had before. Let's see if this helps with the reliability of getting it to the correct pressure without accidentally adjusting the target. Okay, shut off. It's reading 29 psi. The target did not change this time. So for the first time out of all 4 wheels, we have gotten this device to finally work as intended. So what does this mean? Well, it means that they should have designed this thing a little better, or at the very least, if it absolutely must be in this orientation to work properly, that should have been stated in the manual at the very least. For whatever reason, I can't really honestly recommend this product for a set and forget situation, but if you are going to monitor it and make sure everything is right and not be silly and just assume it's going to be right and perfect the first time, then sure, the product's nice. It's nice to have a digital meter instead of an analog. It's nice to be able to go upwards of half of a PSI rather than just full PSI measurements. It's obviously, got some benefits being able to set it and for the most part get at least close to where you were going to, but the main problem still is the target PSI setting. 3 out of the 4 tests, it kept going up. The first test was the worst offender, as we saw, where it kept going up and up and up past 30 psi when I specifically set it for 29. So, where does that leave us? Well, you need to ultimately decide for yourself if this is something you want. First off, if you have a vehicle that requires more than 35 psi to be put into your tires, this product is not for you if you intend to use it for your vehicle. Second off, if you have a situation where you live in an area where temperatures can get really cold or super hot, like here in Illinois, this may also not be the product for you. The analog version of this product, where it doesn't have an automatic stop where when it reaches a desired PSI, has a much more flexible operating temperature. This one has a minimum operating temperature, which means the temperature around it, of 20 degrees Celsius, whereas the analog version that I've tested that doesn't have this auto stop is negative 20 degrees Celsius. That's important. You don't want to use these devices outside of the range of temperature that they're intended to be used in. You have to decide if this meets your requirements. And you have to be willing to understand that this is not going to be accurate most of the time. And you will have to double check it. But if you're willing to do that, then sure. It's not a bad device. It's nice. It's convenient for the most part. It'd be much more convenient if it just straight up works, but every device has its quirks, and this one, it's debatable. If you really need to be that specific, that is. Nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, show your friends, check out my other videos. I've got plenty of them. And as always, I'll see you next time. Drive safe.